So, lately, I have been thinking a lot about the leaders of the world's biggest democracies. Right now, in those democracies, are the people liking their leaders or are they stuck between choosing the less of the multiple evils? Now, if we look across the globe, a massive shift is happening. Be it the United States, India, or Israel, the youth, minority groups, and even the core religious bases are nowadays turning against their political leaders. They are turning away from the roots, and this isn't just about regular political opposition anymore. I'm talking about the grassroots alienation that is happening right now. So, today, let's talk why the youth and ordinary citizens are breaking up with their democratic leaders. And let's look at the actual evidence happening right now that shows us these facts and makes us think that yes, it is a valid reason to turn against your own government. So let's start by talking with the world's largest democracy, India. India's prime minister, he has become the longest serving prime minister of the country, and for a long time, he has commanded a massive loyal base, and this base is amongst the majority population and the youth of the country. Many youth literally love him. But slowly we are noticing a shift. Why? Now, this shift is because of governance accountability that has rusted down to nothingness. And this has directly hit the future of young people in the country. Since in India, the majority population is young, there is intense systemic exam leaks and paper leak crisis that hit the younger generation. Since the paper leaks are ruining their career, there have been a lot of reported suicides. And this has boiled over into a major political friction, putting severe pressure on the administration. In terms of accountability, there is none. Numerous EVMs, voting machines, and crime cases go unnoticed in the country. And this demanded resignation of different ministers. Now, in various places, we have noticed that if any mishap happens, the prime minister or the particular minister resigns himself as feeling a bit of shame. But in India, that has not happened, and a result of this turned into a massive protest. Many call it a revolution. And finally, the education minister of Narendra Modi had to resign. Since electoral support feels that systemic corruption and incompetence are currently robbing their future, the blind loyalty, or what is popular in India called anbhakti, is no longer present. It's cracking down. It's not about ideology, it's about employment, education, and accountability in India. Now, let's look at the US, where Donald Trump remains a dominant force. But if we look closely at who is pushing back in this particular democracy, it's a bit weird. Unlike the real political opposition, which is bound to happen, it's not the standard Democrats only who are fighting back or who are pushing against Donald Trump. Recent data shows a fascinating and deep rift with younger generations, especially the Gen Z. It includes those particular individuals who come from different nations to study in the US with their own dreams, which are now kind of crushing against with the government. Major highlights show a staggering number of young Americans. Not staggering number, I would say, I will represent the real data. Nearly half of the Gen Z adults say that heavy religious political alignments connected to figures like Trump actually cause a deep rift. The younger generation of US is unhappy with Trump. His statements and whatever he says is not being, put into action now. And the Gen Z or younger adults are kind of raising questions against it and saying him as a toddler. Even traditional Christian demographics, controversial rhetoric, and polarizing imagery have caused noticeable dips and sharp internal debates among the people of the country. Now, Donald Trump doesn't really care about what his statements make up after he says that. So many people are laughing over him and are raising questions that should such a person hold such a great amount of power? Now, students are rejecting the marriage of extreme partisanship and faith. They believe that a democracy should be corely secular to its belief, and a leader should say words and make statements like a leader, not a toddler, which many of the United States citizens are calling it. His statements are not actually functioning into action, which though he claims it's. And his presence in the Epstein files and a lot of other cases that are going against him, his funding to Israel and all that stuff is kind of making citizens' feelings more worse than ever before. And then there is Benjamin Netanyahu. I would say very few leaders, or just a handful of leaders, have faced a democratic and international identity crisis, which he faces. Now, Israel has long been hated since October 7th. Inside Israel, consecutive data from groups like Israel Democracy Institute show that public trust in Netanyahu's regime has cratered, and his government is losing faith, with less than half of the Jewish Israelis expressing trust in his leadership. This is far behind the key defense figures. Now, his presence in some criminal records and all that stuff is making situation much worse. But we need to look outward also to the Jewish diaspora in the United States. Now, historically, Israeli prime ministers could count on their international supporters and their broad based solidarity that comes from American Jews, and even the celebrations that go on in the name of Israel. However, the Israelis who settled in the US or the Jewish who live in the US, the extensive public opinion polling from the outlets like the Washington Post and the specialized diaspora surveys kind of reveal that a solid majority, around 68% of the American Jews, view Benjamin Netanyahu as a threat to Jewish existence rather than Hamas or Palestinians. They see his leadership negatively now. Now, I've been speaking a lot of now. When a leader loses both his home citizens and his international diaspora support base, it exposes a deep fracture that is slowly and steadily trying to break his bones. In a democratic representation, this means an end to that particular leader's role and a fall in his image as well as life in the case of Benjamin Netanyahu, which we all might agree upon. So, what do you think ties all of these leaders together? From New Delhi to Washington to Tel Aviv, we have noticed a dangerous gap. This gap has opened up between the political figures and the ones that are being covered. The youth are not buying blind loyalties and they aren't fed up of traditional things. Now they are trying to go against the traditional voting blocks and are prioritizing leaders who are accountable, who are transparent, who are prioritized over functional governance, integrity, and safety. They have kind of gone away from blind party loyalty. They don't nowadays see as this party means our country. They're going against it. Now, when leaders rely on polarization to stay afloat, they might win elections. They but lose the very trust of the younger generation. They lose the heart and soul, and in the case as we saw in Tel Aviv, even international support and a particular humanly identity. What do you think? Are people in your country saying for their political leaders or saying against them? We know political opposition will always exist in democracy and that is necessary. But what I'm saying is against this particular leadership trend. People are going against their leaders. So subscribe to my channel, and if this video resonated with your feelings, then do like it and also comment down what you feel for your leader. We need to understand this world more and more as we go more and more.